Good morning in the USA, good evening in Norway. Welcome to another wonderful conversations with one of the great leaders in the climate control on the issues of climate, which are so critical that if we don't address it, we do so at our own peril. Today, we are honored, and I feel very privileged to have my dear friend and brother from another mother, Bjørn Haugland, the CEO of Skift, who's joining us for this conversation. And from our side, we have our collaborator, our partner, my dear friend Bart Myers, the CEO of Countable and Causes.com. So today we hope to have a great conversation, a challenging conversation, an informative conversation. So Bjorn, let's begin by just you introducing yourself and telling the people on this channel something they may not know about Bjorn Haugland.
Thank you. First of all, thank you so much for the invitation and for the warm introduction. So thank you for that, Bawa, and it is good to see you again here today. My name is Bjørn Haugland. I'm basically working with the business sector of Norway to transform the economy of Norway and build green competitiveness for the biggest actors in the Norwegian business sector. So Skift is an initiative where we work with the CEOs, we work with the companies. We are both curious and impatient, driving the climate transition of the companies in Norway, in Nordic, and in Europe. And then I'm very happy to also serve as an advisor at your platform for the Center of Responsible Leadership, because obviously the transformation we are into is a global transformation. And I think particular in the times we are living today with a lot of geopolitical stress and uncertainties, it is very much important to be engaged in these kind of initiatives, which we try to unite each other, because the world will only succeed if the whole world succeed with respect to the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, and particular Goal 13 on the climate action. So that's who I am. I'm also working a lot with startups. So I'm just both investing and working with different startups, again, here in Norway, to bring forward youth, to bring forward new initiatives, and to bring forward new solutions. So apart from that, you challenged me something not even you know about me, as my brother.
Yes.
Well, I am, on my spare time, I'm enjoying hang gliding. That I've done since I was 15. And what Bawa know, and rest of you don't know, is that I have promised Bawa to bring him in the hang glider over the city of Bergen, which is my hometown, and we will do that. And Bawa is very popular in Bergen, and I think we will do some great things together there. So stay tuned. Next time we will have this kind of dialogue. It will be live on the hang glider. So I'm not sure about how you can facilitate that part, but we will give you a challenge there.
Oh my God, here we go. I will be coming down the lovely mountains of Bergen into the center square with Bjorn.
Okay. Exactly.
I like that challenge. I like that. Bjorn, you touched on a couple of things which I want to talk. One is I learned in Norway through my different times there that Norwegians in their basic commitment commit to almost 5 different causes, each one of them. That is very unique. I mean, this is a country which seems to have in their DNA the notion of giving back to the world, of doing good in the world. Why is that so?
Well, I think probably part of the reason is that Norway is a very small country in number of you know, the population of Norway. So, and I think, at least for me personally, because I've been working globally in Asia, in China, in Korea, many places, and I see the benefit of coming from a small country. Because when then you approach the world with curiosity. You know, I have seen Americans coming to China, and it seems like they know everything from day one about China. But I see people coming to China and other countries from smaller countries, they are more curious about how is this country working? How is this culture working? So again, I think that is one of the benefits from Norway, that we are born and raised in a very small part of the world, and that gives us a curiosity of understanding the world, and I think that's part of our DNA. And I think today that is also probably one of our, you know, strongest elements in our culture.
I hope one day the rest of the world can also emulate what you people do in Norway. But it brings me to another point, that I know that in your past, you've also been the Chief Sustainability Officer of DNV GL, amongst other things. You're the one who helped facilitate also when I came to meet the Crown Prince and the dialogue and several other things. To me, is Norway seems to be unique in taking the leadership. And one of the things is you have the world's wealthiest sovereign fund. So where is Norway headed in this battle? I think it's really a battle on issues of climate control.
Yeah, and this is really a discussion in Norway today, because this fund, you know, we are also, how to say it in a mild way, but we are profiting a lot on the war, the terrible war in Ukraine. Because of the spike in energy prices. So, and also that Europe, you know, want to be independent on the energy from Russia, and they then look to Norway. And so we were wealthy a year ago, but we are, you know, by the minute getting much more wealthier now due to that terrible war and what's going on in Europe these days. So your question is really debated now in Norway. How can we use this fund and our wealth to accelerate, you know, the green transition, not only in Norway but in Europe, and obviously also use that wealth to do other, how to say, support the world going forward with SDGs. So. So you're saying that it is a good debate about it, and it seems that both the business sector and the civil sector of Norway really would like now to do more going forward, because we feel that is a responsibility, but it is also an opportunity.
You know, I remember your famous words at the United Nations at the Responsible Leaders Summit. And it stays in my heart very clear. And I've quoted you many times. You said this: in Norway, we love to pay our taxes, and we pay more taxes. Why?
This is obviously for us, because paying tax is an investment. So, you know, when you change the world you use, it also means different things. So in Norway, we invest in common goods like education system. It's free in Norway to be educated, and you know, until university. Everything is free. We invest in our healthcare system. We invest in infrastructure, and we invest in a civilized society, which is not polarized, but where we work together in all dimensions. So by turning the tax world into investment, and investment for a civilized society, I think you should understand why it is important for us to invest in what is common, in what will build, our society forward, in how we can, make Norway an even better country for everybody to live in. And that is why I share that phrase with you and your colleagues in UN. And many people come back to me even years after this and say that we don't remember so much from that conference. It was a great place, we remember, but we remember that phrase of you, because that kind of get our thoughts.
Yeah, it's for me, why I focus on this is today, we are all finding ways to avoid paying taxes, and having that notion of investing in our future, that is a fundamental change in the way we think. And that's why I wanted you to speak about it and why Norwegians think that. I agree with you. It's a great investment for ourselves. We have to consider that. But it seems to me that people generally don't have confidence in their political leadership.
Yeah, I think you are spot on. And I think, again, coming back to Norway, I think that is why we can leverage on, is that it's a high level of trust between the government and the people. And when you have that kind of high level of trust between, the various stakeholders in the society, you will also be willing to invest more in the common goods. And I think that many countries around us and globally are struggling to build that trust. And it can be various reasons for that. It can be corruption, it can be, polarization, it can be all kind of issues. So to really, bring back that trust, I think, is fundamental in order to get people able to invest in the future. And but I think also that is so important in order for us to solve global challenges together, because then we need to collaborate. It's no way, outside strong global collaboration.
You're spot on, because I look at the United States of America, the world's leader, right, for the free world. And we've never seen our country so polarized and so divided. It's almost like Congress and is difficult to even function. I mean, for me, I look at it and I think the whole notion of democracy is founded on the principles of healthy dialogue and debate. But then you come together and agree on what is good for the country and the world. That spirit of compromise is compromised today. What can we do to restore that?
Well, first of all, it's not only you as you see it yourself, but the rest of the world also see this with America today. And, people on my age, we grown up with this notion of the American dream. America was something we looked to. A lot of Norwegians, they have traveled to America to take part of that American dream. I would say that is no longer a dream, because we see this strong polarization, but we also see the role US take towards China, or try to take, and many other countries. And it doesn't, at least for me personally, it doesn't seem the behavior of I would not say world leader, but any leader who would like to work together and really get the issues solved. So I think the first restart on this kind of how to strengthen global democracy is that we need to respect each other much more than we did before, or we are into now. We need to be curious about each other. And to have a respect and be curious, I think that is a starting point in order to find way of collaborating, because the three of us are different, countries are different, we have different background, and that should be seen as a gift not as a threat. So respect, be curious, and see differences as a gift. I think, you know, that is a great starting point in order to build a better world going forward.
You're spot on. I mean, I want to take you on another trajectory. Remember when the Millennium Development Goals were adopted? We go back before that to the Earth Summit. And then the Millennium Development Goals led to the Sustainable Development Goals. And you are one of the pioneers. You are a deep thinker, and you are somebody who's deeply embedded. Today, tell me honestly, how many people in the world actually know the 17 SDGs and the 640 sub set of the SDGs? How many people actually know them and understand and know what to do?
Well, it's hard to give you a number here, but obviously I agree to your kind of overall how to say assessment on where we are. For me, it's always important to portray the 17 SDGs as the future we want, and it is a future who is bigger, better, and more fair for everybody. So that is the starting point. So that's why I love to hold on the SDGs, and you see I still use it on my jacket. But said that, it is so important that we going forward are able to translate it to, you know, to different groups, to different countries, to different cultures, because this is not at all one size fit all. This must be a uniform framework which, you know, people can see their challenges into, and also find ways to solve their challenges based on their background and competencies and insights and so on. So we still have a large way to go in order to build that framework, which was launched in 2015. So we should have come much longer on it. But again, we need to build it on respect, on curiosity, on how all different countries and people can fit into it, and also on how to say more common respect that everybody has their own voice into it.
No, Bjorn, you say this, but you know, the situation is dire. We see look how many natural disasters are increasing in frequency and intensity around the world. Last year we had the hurricane which hit Florida, which altered the map of Florida forever. Big, massive highways were swept away. Just yesterday, now we've seen the massive earthquake in Turkey and Syria, which we pray for those people poor and suffering, who innocent people are just suddenly gone, and suddenly they are exposed to all the elements of nature. When will governments and say the business community, perhaps the religious leaders, when and can they work together on these issues to make the SDGs specific to what people can be doing in their own communities? I say this because until and unless you make this a global movement and have a common person understand what to do in their communities, we will not succeed.
No, again, I fully agree with you, and we are far from you know, using the 17 SDGs as a common tool and instrument and framework to enforce, as you said, everybody to understand what they can do. And we will see more disasters going forward. So the science is very clear, as we are, you know, polluting the atmosphere with more CO2, as the temperature is rising, the nature will respond back to us with, you know, a weather and a climate which will be warmer, better and wilder and drier. So we will see more of all of this going forward. That's for sure. And I think change in the weather will probably be the one catalyst for politicians, for business people, for other organizations to find more together and to do more. But because up to now, we've been a lot of talking, but a lot, very few things have changed on the ground.
For me, is when will we learn? When could we imagine that we will see a temperature of minus 108 Fahrenheit in New Hampshire? It is the coldest in the history of the United States of America, much colder than Alaska. I'm sure much colder than many other places on the planet. When will we understand the gravity of the situation?
Maybe, and that's why I have, two of us have worked a lot to bring the business sector and the religious sector more together. And maybe that is the turning point, because as you know very well, people don't trust the business leaders. They don't trust business sector, and for good reasons. In many countries, they don't trust the political leaders, and again, for good reasons. But they have a trust in the religious sector. 90%, you have told me, of people believe in one or the other sector within this big picture. So I'm not saying that this is the only solution, but I think it's a great potential also for religious leaders to build more competence within this field, and also to use more of their time to enlighten people and to inspire people to take certain action in their local community.
No, you've given me a very good idea. I mean, is it conceivable that on a national level, we can start to convene bodies of eminent business leaders, political leaders, and religious leaders on implementation of the SDGs, and then making it specific to their communities in their countries to see what people can be doing in their communities to help accomplish the SDGs?
I think that will be our next project, Bawa. And it's not only on the, we need to do it on the country level. We need to do it on the city level. We need to do it on the community level. So we need to bring it down. And this kind of, zoom in and zoom out. So we need to obviously do it on the global level. And a lot is done on the global level. But I think the next step is to bring it on country, city, or community level.
Absolutely. How do we do that?
So we have to start with a country where we have a big challenge. So I think if we solve the USA first, we will fix all the other countries easily. How about that?
God bless. Going and catching the juggernaut, catching the giant first, and getting them to agree to take the leadership. The Congress can't decide on basic things, man.
No, but again, I think the road forward here is a learning journey, and nobody kind of sit with the exact answer on how these things should be done. So obviously we need to find a country or a community or a city where it is a willingness to do this, and then we need to demonstrate by doing that this is a way, going forward. So I think the whole notion of doing this should be based on finding people, leaders, who would like to work in a kind of broad cooperation like this.
See, there is such a disparity in the wealth distribution that when you ask countries to commit to resources to address issues of climate, the global South, which suffers so much already, do not have the resources. The North has to stand up and go and provide resources in the South to commit to them. Only then I think that you can bring them on board. I have seen a great deal of want and actually intention and willingness to do it in the global South. They lack resources.
Definitely, they lack resources, and they will be hardest hit of the effect of climate change. And the North have put all the CO2 up in the atmosphere. So, we have done that for for 200 years. So we are, you know, we should act. We have a responsible to act.
Yeah, you know,
because
for me
we
is
have caused the problem.
So when you say that, I'm looking at it. You blame China or some of the big developing countries, you know, for all the contributions to the emissions and the CO2 levels. But what are they manufacturing for? For whom? For the global north?
Yeah, so and as you know, I'm not blaming China for that, because if you distribute their emissions on all the populations, they are still below Europe and far below US. And then in addition, your point, you know, the reason why we have kind of progressed on our climate emissions in North and West is basically because all the production is moved to China.
Yeah, and other parts of the Asia
and other parts of Asia, yes.
And now growingly Africa as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So but again, this dialogue going forward is not about putting blame or putting, you know, us and them, and it is based on a common challenge, and it's not only climate. I think the 17 SDGs, they very much envision 17 challenges we need to work on. So, but it's only one way forward, and that is to do it together in a much larger extent. And I think there, to bring at least the religious sector closer to the business sector and civil society might be one instrument to do it.
But
hi guys, this is a great discussion. I don't have a ton to contribute other than I think the one area where we have seen again and again that movements can take hold, and that it's intuitive to us, but it's something that frequently is flies in the face of what we see in the media, which is that change starts at the local level. And you know, so many of these problems are so vast when you look at them on a global scale, and you look at them on a nationalistic scale. And I think, you know, the story that you've told, Bjorn, of Norway is an important one, because there's a lot of lessons that can come from people really binding together in their locality, and their, you know, and the United States is such an enormous country, to start thinking about these problems from the standpoint of local, state, local government, local representation. I would encourage really anybody within, you know, who's grappling with this to focus on, you know, where they can make a difference in their local community as a starting point, and really sort of carry these values forward, from responsible leadership to environmental responsibility. And I would highlight my daughter, who's in high school, and her high school has a very robust service culture happening, and I've been very impressed with the level of participation and interest among these youngsters to participate in their communities, to be better environmental stewards, to start thinking responsibly. And this is happening, you know, at the local level, and they're doing, you know, local things in their communities to help to change behaviors and patterns. And if anything, that's where this has to really take hold. People have to take pride in their communities, take ownership of these issues, and really start to make change at the local level. And that can, I think, fundamentally make a difference. I was really curious, Bjorn, if you have any kind of similar stories of things that you've seen happening at the local level, maybe even in your city, that others may want to emulate.
Well, plenty of example, but I think the key here is that you know, people is people, and change, as you say, very often start on a local level, and if it is working, it's kind of spread out as a good practice. And And Bart, with your background on technology, I think these days and for the next decades, we will have more and more opportunities to spread out, good ideas, good solutions, best practice, and all of that. But fundamentally, I still think that we need to reinstall where we started the conversation. We need to reinstall this respect for each other. We need to reinstall a mindset of curiosity about each other. And we need to look at different nationalities, different culture, all of that as a gift, not as a problem. So I think, again, to find this kind of reborn curiosity about why are you doing things like that in China or in Brazil or in US or in Norway, and somehow, don't use that as a gift and as a driver for innovation. So we need, in this world going forward, we need to respect differences.
Bjorn, that is true. That is true. For me, is getting back into rolling up our sleeves and what we can practically do. Here, we've been very forthright, and we understand candidly now that a lot of the countries and the people don't even know the SDGs and doing very little about it. So is there some example or some way that we could begin to collaborate on actually implementing the SDGs and building this into a global movement? Perhaps on the CRL platform, start a community with that, and to showcase templates of what has worked in different parts of the world. I'm sure you have some resources. Can you share some of those?
Well, I think the first we could do, which is quite simple but very effective, is that we start to translate the SDGs into different languages. So I still remember when I worked in China, and the DNV at that time got a new strategy, which was global impact for a safe and sustainable future, and I was very excited about that vision statement and showed it to my colleagues, and I said, sustainability, what is that? And I was, you of course you know what it is. No, they said this is an American world or a Western world. And then we started this dialogue with my employees, and we ended with, I think at a point, 30 different expressions in Chinese about sustainability. And I think we, by the end of the process, we agreed that in Chinese, it meant something like harmonious society. So my point is, when we talk about respect, the first thing we need to do is that we need to facilitate the dialogue in the language in which we would like to get that understanding. And I know the SDGs are already translated to I think it is 5 languages within UN. But as we know, the world consists of so many more languages. Just go to India. How many languages do we need to translate it in India in order to get that great big country attached to this? So I think that could be a starting point.
Translate. That's a good undertaking to launch on, to see how to translate it into the local languages and what we can be doing. That is one, but you're spot on again in seeing is that the SDGs. I'm here in New York, right? And say even in San Francisco where Bart is, and I challenge you, go into the communities and you ask a community what can you be doing to implement the SDGs, and they would not know what to do. That is a reality. We are talking about the most developed parts of the world, right? If this is the condition here, imagine what's around the world. So question is, how can we have the common person understand what to do?
Well, I think we need to frame the question differently, because as you start to kind of bring, here is the SDG, what are you doing? I think you need to be more humble in your approach and more curious. So I think you should start with a community and you should ask them, so what is the challenges you are facing? So that is the starting point. So people should not be forced to put it into a framework. So you first need to have this dialogue about what is the challenges here, and then you may offer that framework of the 17 SDGs as a framework which you can kind of then map the challenges which will eventually fit into the framework, but as an enabler, because when you put it into that framework, you might more easily also learn from others which may have similar challenges than yourself and this kind of thing. But I strongly believe in, you know, speaking the language of the community you are talking with, and bringing their challenges on the table first, and then, you know, you might use the SDG framework as a way of enable more action and share best practices and get more insights from what others are doing.
Very wise, very, very wise to how to frame it. I like that. I'll tell you, recently I was in India and I was visiting one spiritual leader who you met, who's the hugging saint, Amma. And she has been appointed by Prime Minister Modi as the chair for the upcoming G20's civil society and mobilizing them. I learned from them that they had done work in addressing 100 villages' needs for the 100 villages. So I asked the person who was head of it, I said, can you link them to what SDGs were accomplished in these 100 villages which you helped facilitate? They didn't even think of that before. They were just helping take care of the needs of the villages. Now they will start mapping them out. They said they would.
Yeah, and I'm glad you are sharing that, because obviously the most important is that I start working very specific on the needs and challenges they have. So that should be the first priority for them. The reason for kind of mapping it to the SDGs, as I mentioned, should be to just put it into a framework where you can hopefully learn from others and share your best practice to others. So that framework is more kind of an accelerator for change in the world and for learning from the world.
You know, what I love about you, Bjorn, is you make things simple. The thing is, the UN creates these documents and these treaties which are very complex. And I like the way you simplified the SDGs. So similarly, can you help understand for a common person, what does sustainable development mean?
Oh, that is very simple. So because it is common sense, you know, it's a very human thing, and it is common sense. So sustainability just means, like, you know, like a farmer which would like to develop the farm so that the next generation can also live off the same farm and bring it forward. And that, I think, is for me at least the same thinking with sustainability globally, that we would like to, in a very short time we are living on the earth, we would like to make sure that all the generation coming after us should have equal or better opportunities to, you know, to their lives on the earth. And that is the core of sustainability. Just bring it forward, improve it, make it better, make it shine. And that we can do on a very local, you know, community kind of thinking, on a private thinking, and on a global. So you know, make the future better, bigger, more fair for everybody.
So stop exploiting, become good stewards. This is the mantra that I'm getting from you.
Yeah, and that is common sense, in my opinion.
Very well said, Bjorn. Very well said. As a closing thing is, if you could envision that in 5 years we could accomplish something, where would you take us and guide the people what we could be doing practically, which will bring you to what we want to achieve and accomplish and see the world in 5 years?
Well, I would say three things. First and foremost, we need to come to a place where we have a much more respectful, playful, and curious collaboration globally. because we need to understand that in order to build a better world for everybody, we need to collaborate. So that's number one. Number two is that what we can do is to continue to bring different stakeholders in the society closer together. And definitely it's easier to do it on a local and a community level. And I think particular, again, to bring the religious sector closer to the business sector, because business sector, we have love, trust, but we have a lot of, technology, insights, knowledge, resources. And I think it will be a very good match. And thirdly, you see the tip of the iceberg on technology development and digitalization. What part I think is very high end today will be, 10 years up the road, we will just laugh at what we are doing these days. And we will talk about chat GPT as, you remember, we got the chat GPT or whatever we called it, and we thought that was something very revolutionary and that would change the world. 10 years, up the road, it is something different, something better, probably, and much more powerful. So again, we should use technology really to make this drive towards sustainability much more. And we should look at technology and as our friend and not our enemy.
A great enabler, I would say. And as you're thinking, so this is quite remarkable to get us thinking in things we could simply be doing, which can lead to immense transformation and have a major impact on the way we conduct our lives and do our lives. So in all this is, what is the role of the United Nations, if there is a role?
Personally, I believe it is time now to look into the United Nations, because my mother, she is 95 years old, and I talk a lot with her, and she was growing up during the Second World War, and she believed that after that World War, she was promised that by establishing the UN, the world should never see a war again, because now we have an institution, a global institution should avoid what happens. And I just talked to her the other day, and she said, I'm so kind of, I don't feel that the UN is doing at all what it was promised when it was established. And I think that is enough that we need, I think, to go back on the drawing board and see how the UN really can be a forceful enabler for all the countries in the world to help us in order to make a peaceful, prosperous, fair, equal, bigger, better world going forward. And then we need a stronger UN. But I think we need a different UN. And I don't have exactly the concept of how it should look, but it needs to look different going forward, because today it's not fulfilling, I think, what it was established to fulfill.
Right. Which is interesting. I'm so glad you bring this up, because the UN is one body that we have globally where the countries can come together and agree on basic minimums. And the thing is, we cannot always just keep blaming the UN for all the bad or the ills in the world, because ultimately it is the 193 member countries who decide what the UN can get involved in. But a common person doesn't understand. They think that the UN can just willy-nilly get up and do what it feels like. It cannot. So the question is, how can the UN be a global body to serve the peoples of the world? That's what it was created for. We the peoples. The charter begins with those words. So that notion of we the people and service to the people, that has to be restored. And it is through leadership of the countries. So I hope that we can, through this debate on issues of climate, get people also to be thinking on what global bodies we need which can take care of the needs of what the society has and the challenges it faces today.
Fully agree, and we need a stronger UN going forward. Even though it is the minimum, we need a stronger UN.
Yeah, yeah.
And not only UN, we need other organizations and stakeholders as well, for sure. But we need this. UN is also kind of a very important uniter of the people.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, just such a wonderful conversation. We could go on. I mean, to me, you are a unique example of responsible leadership. Norway is a unique global example of a country being a responsible leader. There are few countries which we can single out and say are truly responsible leaders, because you know what we mean by responsible leadership. We are not here to judge anybody. We are not here to define what responsible leadership is. We ask 3 simple questions, and you answer for yourself and judge if you're a responsible leader. Do you make decisions based on the present or the future? Are those decisions based on conviction or convenience? Are they constructive or destructive? That's all. So great having you today, Bjorn. Let's continue this conversation. Let's begin some partnerships, and let's truly make a difference and have an impact in the world. Thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for a great conversation today. Thank you.